Now, I think women have to work harder to prove themselves because society have got a certain mindset about women's ability. That's improving, but probably not improving quickly enough. Constantly raise your own bar and you'll be amazed. What binds the team is the culture of politics, sharing information. You've got to be transparent. I always believe that with work, it's not just achieving results, but you also need to influence the community around you.
Hi everyone, welcome back to the Mei Chen Success Secrets interview series. I'm Daphne Duan, the program host. With me today is our guest, Ms. Mei Tan. Ms. Tan, very nice to have you here and share with us your wisdom and your experience.
Thank you for the kind invitation, and I'm very pleased to be here.
Yeah, thank you so much. So Ms. Tan is obviously the Mei Chen Advisory Council member and an extraordinary and successful female business leader. Before her recent retirement, Ms. Tan was the CEO of Standard Chartered Bank Hong Kong, and before that, she was made a partner of the investment bank Cazenove of Asia and the first woman and Asian to be admitted to the partnership since the company's inception. So currently, she serves as an independent director on several leading listed and unlisted corporate and NGO boards. So Ms. Tan, I prepared a set of questions for you, and I hope you can share with us your thoughts on this.
Delighted to.
Yeah, thank you. So as a successful female business leader, how did you climb the mountains to figure out your career path and achieve the success?
Well, thank you for the question, and it's a very good question because I have to admit that when I graduated from university, I had no ambition to be a successful female leader. And the reason for that is this was in the 80s and there were no role models. Or hardly any. There were very few role models in the financial industry, in any industry for that matter, and even politically. And so I would say my success came in bite sizes. So every time I succeeded, I was actually spurred on and I raised my own personal bar even higher. And each time I took some risks. I would say it's not been smooth. I also make many mistakes along the way. But the key is every time I make a mistake, I learn from it and I try to grow into a better leader and a better professional.
So you studied finance for your major, and how did you study your career in Hong Kong?
Yeah.
Could you share more?
Okay,
on that?
that's my journey. I was born in Malaysia, so that's why I'm part of the Malaysian Chamber Advisory Council, and then educated in both Malaysia and the United Kingdom. So I went to university in the UK and then worked as a chartered accountant. I trained as a chartered accountant with Pricewaterhouse or PwC in London. When I left PwC, I joined Cazenove in London. And at that time, Cazenove was looking for people to work in their Asian offices. I still remember the conversation with my boss at the time where he said, oh, you look Asian, would you like to the Hong Kong office? And I had to tell him that Malaysia and Hong Kong were actually very different places. But nevertheless, I thought it'd be interesting career-wise to try something new. So I arrived in Hong Kong in 1984 for a 2-year secondment in the office in Hong Kong. And as you say, the rest is history because it's been 38 years and I'm still in Hong Kong. And although I'm a Malaysian by birth, Hong Kong is really also my adopted home.
Yeah, and after Cazenove of Asia, you also joined Standard Chartered Hong Kong to be the CEO. So could you share with us the milestones and big decisions you make perhaps like you joined Standard Chartered after Council of Asia or things like that, and how did you handle the challenges in work and life?
Okay. So I would say one of my key milestones is the decision to come to Hong Kong, because back in 1984, things were pretty depressed in Hong Kong. China hadn't opened up. The Sino-British Agreement was just being negotiated. And little did I know that was probably the low point. So I would say it was a milestone to the extent that there were many opportunities in Hong Kong for a career development. The second milestone was when I became a partner of Cazenove in London. For those of you who are not familiar with Cazenove, it was a firm that was founded in 1823. So when I became the partner in 1995, I was the first Asian partner and I was the first woman partner. So I would say I was very spurred on. I felt that I did the impossible and I thought, I can raise my own bar and I can succeed to that.
How did you feel at that time? Like more proud or kind of a little bit nervous about the uncertainties?
I was very nervous initially because I wasn't sure if I was up to it. And there was self-doubt. I think many people go through that. But at the same time, I think a lot of encouragement from my husband, who said, you can do it. I will help support you. But also, I looked around and honestly, I think I felt that I deserved it because I built the Cazenove franchise into a very successful franchise in Asia. We were one of the leading independent investment banks in Asia. And it was through hard work, it was through opportunity, but I honestly felt that I deserved it, but I was just worried that because I didn't fit into the mold, the usual mold of being a Caucasian, a male, why was I here? So there was a lot of self-doubt, but I would say that now when I reflect on it, I truly deserved it.
That's good.
The third milestone I would say is when I became a mother. And that was in 1986 when I had my firstborn. And why is that a milestone? It's because you can focus very much on career. And then suddenly when you become a mother, you think to yourself, I have to juggle work and family. I have to prioritize. I have to divide my time. And it wasn't very easy in the early days. As you know, technology wasn't there.
Yeah.
So I always had to work very hard, go home, see my children, and then come back to the office to finish the transaction, to finish my work. It wasn't possible to work from home, do things remotely, because in the 80s and the 90s, the technology wasn't quite there.
I can imagine how busy you were.
Oh yeah, I was like super busy, but I enjoyed it. And I felt that it taught me many lessons, how to juggle my priorities, how to juggle my time. And I think, younger women these days are so lucky to be able to get help from technology.
So we are lucky now.
You're lucky now. You're luckier than me. Yeah. The fourth milestone, I would say, is when the Cazenove Asia business was sold to Standard Chartered. And I would say I was very instrumental in, I did the transaction myself. The reason being that in 2002, I listed Standard Chartered in Hong Kong Standard Chartered has been listed in London for a very long time.
Oh, so
But
you handled the IPO.
I handled the IPO myself. So I got to know the management very, very well. And then in 2008, when Standard Chartered was looking to invest more in equities and investment banking products, I thought to myself, I think they'll be a good fit. I know the people, I like the culture is very similar. Let us work together. So anyway, I managed to close the transaction with them, which was remarkable, not because I'm so clever, but because it was 2008, and we all know that was the Lehman crisis. And it taught me one thing also, that Standard Chartered was a great organization, because all throughout the negotiations when the market was falling like a rock, they never renegotiated the price one bit. They just negotiated on making sure the framework was right for integration and so on, but never talked about the pricing coming down. So for that, I really respected the organization. So when I joined the organization, again, I had no idea that I would become the CEO one day at Standard Chartered. The reason is very few people become the CEO through acquisition. Usually you have to be part of the organization for a long time. Everybody knows you and so on. But
so you were like the new joiner.
I was like a new joiner.
I even have the press list of your appointment here.
I was a new joiner, fairly new. It was like 4 years after I sold the business to Standard Chartered. But I was given the opportunity, and I thought, wow, I'm not sure. Again, I had self-doubt. Why are they?
Why you were the chosen one?
Why was I the chosen one? But again, actually, my husband's very good. He says, "Go for it." I wish I was given that opportunity. So let's take it. So I did, and it was the most fun 3 years of my career. I think it's because a lot of things. Because at that stage of my career, I had gained so much experience as a manager, as a leader, and I felt that I had the experience to share with my team, with my staff. I also had, I would say, I was less worried about the people below me taking my position, because by that stage I was quite close to retirement. So I was keen to groom them. I didn't feel that they were a threat to me. And I think that's the way to manage a team. Yeah.
But usually, as a new joiner, when you join a company, people kind of turn defensive about you. So how did you overcome that?
I think...
Did that happen, or actually people were very nice?
It did, because it's never easy. And don't forget, I didn't just join a new joiner. I brought in 200 plus people with me.
Oh, okay. So it's a strong team.
I brought a strong team of people. And every time they had a problem with the organization, it was, May, we need your help to do this. May, we need your help to do that. So it was like me bringing 200 children to the organization. It was
different.
It was different. But I would say what helped me a lot was I was very focused. Okay, we became part of Standard Chartered. We have to integrate. We have to make this a success. And if it's a success, there will be jobs for the 200 plus people. Don't forget that was the time of the financial crisis. If I didn't bring them on, they were probably without a job, given the poor situation in globally. So I think it wasn't easy. Integration for anyone is always tough. I tried to use coercion. I sometimes have to be tough. But
How
I
tough?
I can be tough well, when I need to be, because you don't get to the top by being
Yeah, right.
Miss Nice Guy,
Yeah.
nice
Right,
girl.
correct. Yeah,
So
sure.
I would say that, uh, and also to make your mark. So how I did that was making sure that people knew I was good in certain areas, that you need me to do develop the client relationship. You need me to develop the equity product in Standard Chartered, and you need me for my experience. And if you need me, you also need my team, because my team are the ones with the skill sets to help this happen. I may have the vision, but they are the ones executing it. So I spent a lot of time doing that. I would say, talking about milestones, the final milestone, which I'd like to share with everyone, I'm very proud of
We'd
it.
like to listen.
It is when I became the CEO of Standard Chartered Bank, I was the first female CEO of the bank.
In the history.
In the history of the bank. And the bank, as you know, has got a very long history. It was founded in the 1850s in Hong Kong. And not only that, as a note issuer, I signed the bank notes, and I'm very proud to say I'm the first woman to have ever signed a bank note in Hong Kong.
That already sounds very exciting to me.
So that I would say is another milestone for me.
What an achievement! Yeah. So after talking about your milestones and achievements and decisions you made, how would you describe your management style, your management philosophy, to summarize?
I think management styles are developed sometimes through trial and error, but also reflects the personality of the individual. So in my case, I would say what's helped me in my leadership is I'm aware of what I'm good at, but I'm also aware of what I'm not good at. And so I have a very inclusive style, and I would hire people to fill a lot of the gaps that I'm not very good at. And what I do is always emphasize on teamwork. There's bound to be politics, but I'm a good listener. I would listen to the views, but I make the decisions. And once I make the decisions, that's final. But they've already had their say in terms of giving their views. So to a certain extent, there'll be unhappiness, but they had, and I won't say that I've always made the right decisions, but once I make the decision, we stick to it as a team. And I keep reminding them, we have to work as a team, because, if there's no teamwork, there's no jobs, there's no results, and no jobs for everybody. We all have to have that same vision. We all have to have that same key performance indicator. Let's work together. But easier said than done. It's not without its challenges. But I would say I also lead by example. If there is a problem, and I have to be there, rolling up my sleeves, and showing that I really care, and I would also put in the hours if needed.
Actually, a question just came out from my mind. Like, as a female business leader, when you manage, is there any advantage or disadvantages in your management?
I think it depends on the situation, and there's no hard and fast rules of whether, gender determines whether it's an advantage or disadvantage. I think sometimes it is a disadvantage, because society over many centuries have cast women as always subservient to a man. And you know, when you go to a meeting, people assume that my male colleagues are senior to me, and I have to stand up and make the introductions and tell them, yes, I'm the CEO. You need to put a stamp on it. And hopefully over time, that impression and that biasness will be removed. So that there are some disadvantages. And I think women have to work harder to prove themselves, because society have got a certain mindset about women's ability. That's improving, but probably not improving quickly enough. In terms of the advantages, I would say because there's so few women in leaders, you stand out. I always remember, my clients always remember me because they say, you know, she's that woman I met, not many. And I would say that women are also, we have softer skills, we have more intuition, and I hate to generalize, but I think some women are better at knowing what clients want, what customers want. You
More
can detail, but also you can sense what the customer wants, and women tend to be better listeners as well, I find. So I would say it's a balance. There's no hard and fast rules about men and women, but I think it's important to always choose the best people in my team. But I always make sure that there is diversity within the team. I would not pick all men or all women to be in my senior team, because at the end of the day, you've got customers who are men, women, different races, and you know, you really need to listen to all points of view to come up to the right decision for what is the right thing for all stakeholders. And you also have different shareholders. You know, they all come in different shapes, sizes. There's some institutional shareholders. There are some retail shareholders. What are they looking for? Are they looking for dividend? Are they looking for capital gain? Whatever. So I want to make sure all the time that whatever I do, I pick different people, and they. But what binds the team is the culture. You've got to make sure there is only one culture in the team. And you tell them this is the culture of no politics, or the culture of sharing information. But you as the leader have also got to walk the talk. You've got to say, okay, this year the bonus is so much, and we're going to share it equitably. As much as possible. Not always easy, but you've got to be transparent.
Yeah, I learned a lot. Yeah, so thank you for sharing with us your working experience and work and life as well. We know that besides the success in your career, you are also very proactively in public services, especially in recent years. So could you share with us your charitable experience and your findings? What have you done, and what you are aiming to achieve like in the recent future? Also, you are the council member of the Meichen. So I know that you are also working on the women network as well. So could you share something about this part?
Okay. Well, thank you for the question. This is very close to my heart. And even before my retirement, I was already very involved in working with NGOs, working with charities. So this is close to 20 years, and I also sit on a lot of government professional bodies, because I always believe that with work, it's not just achieving results, but you also need to influence the community around you, the ecosystem. Because at the end of the day, there are many things that are not quite right with society, the imbalance in the community. So you have to give back And you say, oh, one person giving back is not going to make a difference. But if we all thought like that, nothing would happen. So when I joined Oxfam, that was back in 2008, the reason for it was Oxfam focuses on poverty, not just poverty in Hong Kong, China, but also in places like Africa, in Southeast Asia, in South America. And I think the gap between the rich and the poor is something that we all should focus on, because at the end of the day, we're not going to have a stable, sustainable society if the income gap continues to be very wide.
So that's your motivation.
Yeah, that's my motivation. But also, I believe a lot on education. I think education is a leveler. If you come from a poor family, but you have the right education, you have the ability to break out of poverty, to become, to be able to work and give back to society, and also improve the family. Make sure that the rest of your family are able to have a better life. So let me first talk about the Malaysian Chamber. So at the Malaysian Chamber, one of the schemes that we have is to help the Malaysian students studying in Hong Kong. And these Malaysian students tend to come from lower income families. They have come to Hong Kong because they want to seek a better life, but the families tend to have lower disposable income. So what we do at the Malaysian Chamber is we provide sometimes scholarships, help them with some of their expenses, because Hong Kong has got a fairly high cost of living. So there is a student trust fund. So there is good traction, and I feel what we not just help them, but when they start working, we encourage them to give back, and some of the students have done that. Secondly, we last year at the peak of the COVID in Malaysia, we raised money to help the indigenous people, the Orang Asli. And why did we pick the Orang Asli? It was because they tend to be daily wage earners. So during COVID, it was impossible for them to get any work. And so the families were not getting enough food and so on. So what we did in Hong Kong was raised money. I think we raised about close to 800,000 Hong Kong dollars. And that money was sent to Malaysia to buy essentials, rice, flour, canned food for their families. And we have touched thousands and thousands of indigenous people's families. And I think we just recently completed the distribution of food. So that money stretched over a 9-month period, which is very good. One of the reasons was transportation was difficult during COVID period, but also meant that we really spread the food over a long period of time, making it sustainable. And also we did different regions in Malaysia. So the third example is the Women's Network, which I started 2 years ago. When I joined the chamber, I found that there was a big bias towards male members. I think it was 70% male and 30% women. And chamber tends to be more business oriented. And I suppose the women who were not in business felt that they did not have a place there. Whilst I have a very different view, I just think that the chamber is a place where Malaysians and non-Malaysians get together to enjoy each other's company and to learn from each other. And so with the Women's Network, we have events that cater also to non-professional women. We have events, talking about medical issues. We have events talking about wine tasting, food tasting, and create a different dimension so that everyone will be able to join the organization. So those are some of the things I've done, and I'm very pleased to report that it's nearly parity now in terms of men and women at the chamber. So I feel I've made a difference. At Oxfam, I've been involved at many projects, outside Hong Kong. But I think increasingly we are also working with families in caged homes in Hong Kong. I think they always say that, charity begins at home. We have to also help the very poor people in Hong Kong. Hong Kong Youth Arts Foundation, that's a very interesting one, where this is a charity that caters for the arts, educating the schools in Hong Kong to develop a love for acting, singing, dancing for the students. What I find in Hong Kong is the students tend to be very academic. And there's lots of tuition and so on.
Very hard.
Study very hard. But I think in life, to succeed, you need to be more than one-dimensional. You need to have a love for other things, other interests. And I'm very pleased to say that this is a charity that's been around for 20 years. I've been on the board for about 10 years. We do events like Arts in the Park. Each year we have a play where the students from schools act and sing, and I find that the students some of them have actually gone to Broadway and also to the theatres in London. They're now creative. They are now actually actors, and I think that's good because
more than a student just sitting there reading books.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think life is about becoming a more interesting person, because even if they decide to become a banker, there is another topic that they can talk to their customers about, the arts, because this charity helped them develop a love for something other than just studying.
Yeah, that's very interesting.
Yeah. And finally, I sat on a lot of government and also professional bodies. And there I felt that I was giving back my own experience, being on the listing committee, being on the Association of Banks and so on. So I think very, very busy time.
Yeah, even after your retirement, you seem like a busy person.
No. I love giving back, and also I can feel that I've made a difference every time I do that. So for me, that's enough reward.
So you're also working on some education programs as well, right?
Yes. Thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah.
So this was a project that I started in September last year. So it's been hatching for over a year. So I co-founded the Accelerate program with 2 other ladies. And here what we try to do is to equip women with some leadership, communication skills to move up the corporate ladder as much as possible. And my motivation is, now that I'm sitting on boards, I find that there are not many women who, they're technically very competent, but in the interview for, say, the board seat, the vacant board seat, they may not succeed. And it's because of the way they portray themselves. Maybe it's the way they communicate with the interviewer. So I got in some professional coaches, and they conduct sessions, 1 hour, 2 hours, workshops to help women develop these skill sets? I suppose technically men and women are equally competent. We all know that at universities it's 50-50. Women pass the exams, men pass the exams, and they get into universities. But somewhere along the line, women drop out, and because of balancing family or lack of confidence and so on. So the pipeline is actually smaller. The pyramid becomes smaller in terms of the number of women that are eligible. So what I'm trying to do is instill the confidence, give them the skill sets to continue moving up the corporate ladder, so that the pipeline is not like a pyramid, but more like a straight ladder.
So in your opinion, what is the biggest challenge facing business leaders today? The micro environment, COVID, or what other things that you think are quite challenging?
There are many challenges, and then I would say this is not new. Business leaders face challenges, different challenges at different times. But I would say the current challenge now is the geopolitics, where because of countries not getting on together, you've got sort of blocks of countries reacting to each other in a negative way. And when you are trying to do business, whether it's tariffs, whether it is anti-money laundering checks, sanctions, and so on, it makes doing business very tough. Secondly, you mentioned COVID. Yeah, I mean, that's just another challenge, whether it's working from home, whether it's the economy opening up. It's very difficult to plan. Climate change, I think, is another thing that is facing the leaders today. And not just from an ESG standpoint, but also climate change. If you're an insurance company, the number of typhoons, flooding, you can't plan the amount that you want to reinsure. If you are setting up, a processing center elsewhere, say in the Philippines, wherever, and the climate change disrupts the processing that will affect your business globally. Little things like that. It makes it very hard to plan. Another challenge is cyber. We're all very reliant on our phones, on the internet, but there is a big threat. And I think the next big war after COVID is probably going to be a cyber war. So my advice to business leaders is you can establish a strategy, a long-term strategy, but please look at some of the short-term challenges and then tweak your strategy to balance the long and the short term.
So always be thoughtful and get prepared.
Absolutely.
So from your experience, could you share with us the winning tips for the young generation of leaders?
How much time have we got?
This is the last one.
No, what I mean is there's a long list of winning tips because I have been around for so long that I've learned so much. But I'll try and keep it short. And I would say 3 things. I think first of all, and I mentioned this before, be self-aware. Spend time knowing your own strengths and weaknesses, because that should be the starting point. A lot of people do not do enough of that, I think. Secondly, reflect. What I find with young people these days is they spend a lot of time on computers, machines. they don't spend time reading. They have short attention spans.
So many distractions.
There are too many distractions, and also they don't have time to self-reflect. Reflect on the previous day. What went wrong? What can I learn? There's not enough time doing that. And the third tip, personal growth. Don't be complacent, you know. You know your strength, but constantly raise your own bar. And I reflect upon my own successes that each time when I became the first woman CEO, I'm like, I can do it. I raised my own personal bar. So, okay, I'm going to become the first woman to do this. I'm going to become the... So raise your own bar all the time, because if you don't raise your own bar, nobody else will do that. Your boss is not going to raise the bar for you. Your father is not going to raise the bar for you, because he doesn't know what you're capable of. And you'll be amazed, and I'm amazed with my own success, because honestly, it is way beyond my own expectations. Maybe I'm just lucky.
No, your hard work, you deserve it. Yeah. So be a lifelong learner and be brave to take the challenges.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So thank you so much for your time, for sharing with us your stories and the tips and your wisdom. Thank you so much for our audiences to be with us. So this is the end of the talk show. See you next time. Please take good care. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for listening.